Today, we're going to focus in on employees, and we're going to focus in on the Business Roundtable board members themselves. How much are they returning to employees as stakeholders? Okay, so it's employee time.
Right. I'm gonna get my smart lenses on.
Here's the way to think of this. This is very, very simple to think of, and then I'm going to put you to sleep with the numbers. Okay, the simple way to think of this is, as an employee at a company, if you are listening to this, you are probably an employee of a company. The asset that you give that company that you work for is time. You give them your time. You show up every day. You sign on now at night because it's not enough to just show up 9 to 5.
Yeah,
you're
weak.
You are distracted. You are not paying attention to your children or your dog or your significant other because you are constantly thinking about what your employee needs. This is the asset you give them. You give them your time, your blood, your sweat, your tears. That's what you give them, right?
Yep.
What you get in return for that asset that you give them is paid.
Right, pay, yeah.
You want money. You want money in the form of a constant salary, and you want money in the form of giant bonuses at the end of the year, hopefully, if you're lucky enough to work in a place that pays you giant bonuses. But mostly what you want is just give me my money so that I can pay for like the stuff that I need, okay?
All right.
Let's start with giving time. This is what you give them. This is your input into the company. What the company sucks out of every single one of us.
Yeah, you're giving them your life.
You're giving them your life. In fact, that's exactly how I framed it, okay? So the companies on the Business Roundtable are employers. Walmart is the largest at 2.2 million employees. Million with an M.
That's it still shocks me. Yeah.
The next closest on the Business Roundtable board is IBM with under 500,000. They have about 330,000 employees.
IBM's still a thing. Yeah.
IBM is still a thing, and they're still a pretty big employer, 330,000 people, right?
Jeez.
Pretty big.
Yep.
So this is the board members of the Business Roundtable, the ones who are pushing for the idea of stakeholders.
Sure.
But let's think of that in terms of lifetimes given, because we're talking about the asset that you're giving them.
Yeah, let's get depressing. Let's
get really depressing here.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're all about. The time that you give your employees, if you work at Walmart, is the equivalent of more than 5,600 lives per year.
So that's the aggregate employees, right?
So what we're doing is all employees working 34 hours a week on average, 52 weeks a year, and the life expectancy in the U.S. is about 78 years, right? Okay. So you just do it's simple math transformation that accumulates to over 5,600 lifetimes given to Walmart every single year.
Yeah, just for a bag of Swedish fish and a crappy TV. All right, fine. Well, who am I to judge?
Your Cuisinart does not come cheap when it comes to lifetimes. The next closest, obviously, is IBM, because this is just another way of looking at the size of the employee work pool, right? But IBM's under 1,000 lifetimes, and then way down at the bottom is S&P at like 50 lifetimes. So not so much, okay?
Yep.
How do we value your time? Now, there's a very, very simple way to value your time, because I know you want to think of your time as incredibly valuable, like it's time away from your kids, it's time away. But guess what? The federal government already put a value on it. It is $7.25 an hour. That is the U.S. federal government minimum wage.
Okay.
The effective minimum wage is actually $11.80 an hour because different states have different minimum wages, and it's all a big mess. And if you want to get into the Walmart versus Amazon dick war about how much your time is worth, Walmart...
You say dick war too much. It disturbs me.
It does. Well, it happens. Well, Walmart says your time, they pay out roughly the equivalent of $17.50 an hour, and Amazon says $15 an hour, and they're jostling for who's more hourly friendly-ish, as Jeff Bezos makes you pee in a cup while you're working in their factory, and Walmart makes their greeters basically work until they die. So this is like these are a lot of ways to measure the time. I'm gonna go with effective minimum wage. $11.80 an hour is how much your time is worth at a baseline.
Yeah.
The average person,
Average person.
the bare minimum that you should get is about $11.80 an hour,
Okay.
which means Walmart's paying out in minimum wage. You'd expect them to be paying out somewhere in the neighborhood of $45 billion in compensation to their 2.2 million employees. So that's just math, right? $11.80 times the number of employees that you have. It's called math here, people. We do a lot of it.
Yeah.
So how much do you actually get paid?
Oh yeah, this is what I want to know. Not much recently.
Because the return you get is how much you get paid more than the bare minimum you should get paid to just have a job.
Wait, what? You're gonna have to slow down. Okay, say that again.
So here's the deal, right? You show up at work, you should expect no less than $11.80 an hour based on effective minimum wages.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
But these companies pay out more to their aggregate. Like if you're a senior vice president at Walmart, you get paid more than that, right?
Sure.
So what's the difference between the bare minimum that the employees would be making at effective minimum wage?
Okay. Yeah.
Versus how much they actually do get paid in aggregate.
Right.
Okay.
Like how are they treating? Yes. How are they treating the stakeholder in this way?
How are they treating their stakeholder? How much extra are they paying their stakeholder?
Right.
Well, we know those numbers too, or we can estimate them based on a lot of factors. I'm not going to go into how we estimate them, but the way we can, what we end up with is Walmart's paying almost $50 billion to its employees. But guess what? JP Morgan's paying more than $30 billion to its employees. So let's look at the difference.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Because now we're seeing the way these companies basically jostle around. If you're in finance, you make so much more than you do if you're in other industries, right?
Yeah.
So here's what it looks like in the end. The number one payer over minimum wage on the Business Roundtable board is JP Morgan, which you would absolutely expect. JP Morgan pays almost $27 billion over minimum wage. Okay? You with me?
Yeah.
Walmart, on the other hand, our number one employer, is almost last on the Business Roundtable board. They pay less than $5 billion more than minimum wage to all those employees. Here's another way to look at it, okay? I'm going to give you another way to look at it, which is there is a way to map out the ratio of actual compensation to minimum wage. Okay? You still with me? I said the word ratio. I think everyone just turned off.
This one's hard for me, but I want to be taught.
So what I'm going to show you here is the amount of compensation that they actually pay relative to the amount of compensation that is minimum wage.
Sure.
The big winner is actually not JP Morgan. It's because JP Morgan has an absolute, amount above minimum. It's actually someone you might least expect. Duke Energy.
Okay, so what are they doing right, Duke Energy?
So here's what's happening.
Yeah.
Duke Energy is my big winner. And Duke Energy is not who you would expect to be a big winner in a stakeholder conversation, considering they literally provide the means to burn the entire world, right? Like their business model is lighting shit on fire. Dig something up, light it on fire. Like that's our business model.
Okay.
But from an employee standpoint, this is where stakeholder valuation is interesting, because you would look at Duke Energy as an investor and say, if you care about like stakeholders, you would look at them in climate change. You would look at them and say, wow, Duke Energy is not something I should ever invest in. But from an employee standpoint, their employees donate. I would say donate lightly. They give Duke Energy basically the equivalent of 74 lives per year. They show up, their hours is the equivalent of 74 lives, or $606 million at minimum wage. But Duke Energy pays them $4.6 billion more than that. So if you are an employee of Duke Energy, that's an 8.6 times return on your time at minimum wage.
Right.
The big loser is, you guessed it, Walmart.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Because you are giving Walmart 5,600 lives in aggregate at a cost of minimum $46 billion. And Walmart, for all that work that you put in, gives you an extra $2 billion as an employee group. That's basically $1 per employee, or $100. What is it? $100 per employee.
They're basically telling you like you're never going to get a raise. Like the ceiling is so low.
They are effectively giving you 1.1 times your minimum value. So you're not getting much. This is stakeholder management.